All right, y'all. Welcome to another movie review. Sorry for the wait. I'm gonna start stacking these up. I'm going to watch Avatar. I thought I was going to watch it today, but I know that's not gonna happen. We've already started drinking. There's not gonna be any Avatar happening. So, what are we gonna talk about today? We're gonna talk about the movie Emancipation. Will Smith, black and white, movie about slavery, the story of Black Peter. If you're not familiar with Black Peter, um, if you've ever seen that notorious picture of the man with the most scars a man could have on a back, that's Black Peter. I wish I had visual stuff. I'm going to work on that. This year is going to be a real focus on editing and trying to get my vision across because I feel like once I can, you don't give a fuck. So today on the movie review, we're going to talk about emancipation, slave movies, and kind of how they're received. It's another slave movie. If you don't have Apple TV, so fucking what, you know? I assumed that everybody who had an Apple phone had Apple TV. That is not the case. But I have Apple TV because I have friends. So somebody, whatever. There was a trial. I don't know. I got the fucking thing. So, I got Apple TV. See some really good shows on there. Not a lot. Ted Lasso was great. Ptolemy Gray with Sam Jackson was really good, but there aren't a lot of, you know, Apple TV isn't bustling with a lot of exclusive television. The Jon Stewart show's all right, but I got to pick and choose. There's nothing. I'm not rushing to Apple TV to see anything. So Will Smith comes out with Emancipation. Another movie that came out in black and white on Apple TV was Hamlet. Was it Hamlet? No, Othello. Pretty sure it was Othello. With Denzel Washington. It was amazing, but you gotta like Shakespeare. If you don't like Shakespeare, it's a hard road. But yeah, you gotta like Shakespeare. So Will Smith does Emancipation. Sorry, I'm looking for something. Will Smith does Emancipation. And what do you say to that? It's another slave movie. It's hard to anytime a slave movie comes out, black people are always like, "Oh, here we go, another slave movie," because it's just hard to fathom, telling the story a different way. It's a slave movie. So, and that's why Django was so amazing. That's why Django was so amazing, because it was a story that was the alternate of a slave movie. It was a hero slave movie. The slave was the actual hero, and not a hero in the fashion where he was a hero because he freed himself and he freed others. Not a hero in that capacity. A hero in the capacity where, like, I'm out here fucking telling white people what to do, dressing up nice, riding a horse, talking shit, whole melee motherfucker, da 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 da. That kind of shit. The kind of stories that they used to tell you, where you got motherfuckers, that slave revolt nigga who was like the guy. Was it Nate? Big Nate? So, that kind of stuff. That kind of stuff. Now, am I so enthralled by the movie that I have to believe that as much as black people as a culture talk about true slave revolts, we know the actual history. We know all of these things, but in that capacity, do I have to imagine that there's never been a black screenplay sent to a studio about a hero slave? Yes, it's inevitable. Trust me, I write. There aren't too many stories that haven't been written. So you got to think about it in that capacity, right? So yes, Spike Lee comes to you with a hero slave movie. You probably comes to a studio no problem and is like, yo, I have to imagine that Spike Lee's probably the only black director, screenwriter that can walk into a major studio and say, I want to do a black hero slave movie, and it possibly be a thing. But that's not what happened. What happened was, out of all these possibilities, and mind you, I don't know the numbers of how many black writers have been rejected by their by a major studio to make a hero slave movie. I have no idea the numbers, but I know that everybody tries to tell a story. I know that everybody tries to tell a story in film. I mean, it's a visual story. It's what we do. It's our theater now, is film. So I have to imagine, just based with all the people that have a story, that can tell the story, that love to write, the numbers are unimaginable, because there's no telling how many people tried to come out with a hero slave movie. But those black men didn't make a hero slave movie, did they? It was Quentin fucking Tarantino. And I loved it. I'm not even going to hate. I fucking loved it. I enjoyed every minute of the movie. I did think it was ironic that there was a movie about a black hero slave that was made by a white man. I even want to say that I brought it up in one of my sets. Like, it's just very ironic and upsetting. So I looked at the situation and I said, that's a Hollywood thing. You know, I can't let an angry black guy come out with a angry hero slave movie, but I can let a crazy white guy come out with it. I only bring up Django because Will Smith turned it down. And when you see Emancipation and you realize that Will Smith turned down Django to do Emancipation, he picked the wrong slave movie. Is what happened. My man Will Smith picked the wrong slave movie. And that's okay. It's a slave movie. How can you like I said, it's a slave movie. How can you, even in Django, bitches was still in a box and getting their ass whooped. Like, the story doesn't change. And Django's not a real story. It's a creation out of a white man's mind. You know, that shit is written by fucking Quentin Tarantino. Written and directed. Like, that's how you end up directing. You right. So Will Smith chose not to be in the Quentin Tarantino Django because of the gratuitous violence. And that's fair. Mainly because Will Smith is not fucking... do you remember the first scene in Django? First scene in Django is a fucking horse getting his face blown off. That ain't the Will Smith brand. It's just not. So it didn't suit him. They didn't match up well, which makes sense. So when you see Emancipation, you see this story of still in tune with their culture, still knowing where they came from, giving off kind of a Haitian vibe, kind of a French slave kind of vibe. His accent isn't great, but it's a lot of chasing. He's getting chased through the Louisiana swamp. You know, that's the story. The story is that he's getting chased through the Louisiana swamp. If you haven't seen it, go fuck yourself, man. There are no spoiler alerts. It's a slave movie, you know. It didn't do well at the box office. It's cold out here, y'all. It's cold out here. It didn't do well at the box office. It didn't go to the box office. Nothing really goes to the box office anymore. I'm going to go watch Avatar. Ooh, I don't look good in that angle. But I'm going to go watch Avatar. And I have no doubt that it's going to be great. I went and watched Wakanda. You know, I got about 2.5 hours on my Black Excellence quota. Once they take it to hour 3, you know, hurry up with the Black Excellence and the love. It was a lot of movie. It was a lot of movie. Let me just say that. If you haven't seen Black Panther 2, you know, bring a sandwich. So I hear the same thing about Avatar, which is fine. Which is fine. I don't mind. The first one was long, so I can't imagine that, it took them 13 years or 20 years or however long we've been waiting for them for them little cornrows to lock up and start swimming with the animals. I don't know. So in that capacity, man, you're like, hey, you know, when you look at emancipation, you're gonna see the effort. It's a lot of running. It's a lot of chasing. Um, Snide remarks. I mean, it's a slave movie. I'm not going like I can't. That's the crazy part about it. There's nothing different about it aside from the historical Black Peter struggle. Um, the acting isn't great, but when is the acting? I mean, I would say like the acting was good in 12 Years a Slave, but I think the story was better than the acting. I think the story was that solid. Amistad is just hard to watch. Both of those movies I've only seen once. You know, I rewatched Emancipation just because it's funny. Um, and like I said, anytime a black person sees a slave movie, they're like, oh, it's another slave movie. Trust me, if you're not a black person or you're not one of those black people, 9 times out of 10 when we see a black anytime, and if you're not saying it out loud, you're saying it to yourself. Wow, another slave movie. Yeah, how many? I mean, yes, Roots pretty much locked it all down. It's like a 7 tape series, all in VHS. I own it. Um, but yeah, he's running a lot. He has to get back to his family. Lincoln is announced, and that's kind of the now that is one of the things that I did appreciate. It. There were certain moments where I really appreciated um, that part of it. That's what that Juneteenth portion of history that we now celebrate is to me a slap in the face because it talks about a time when um, America was still lying to us and blatantly lying to our face. So this kind of touches on that. Um, they're slaves. They overhear them talking about freedom and how Lincoln has freed the slaves, and they're still slaves. So they're like, "What the fuck? Hold on." So there's this whole um, that's kind of it has some really good moments. There's a moment where the mother doesn't want to be separated from her family, so she sacrifices um, herself, and without messing up the story or spoiling anything for you. Basically, it's hard to sell damaged goods, so she compromised herself for her family, and then you realize the level of sacrifice that people had to make to be together. So, when you watch people so quickly fall apart, it really gives you an aspect on that. I hope that that's what they were going for. It was a really kind of super cool directing moment. And if you watch a lot of movies like I do, and you've seen damn near every slave movies really impart the pain and the struggle, but they don't impart the individual sacrifice that people. Yeah, and maybe I'm wrong, but to me, when I'm watching slave movies, movies about slavery, not slave movies, movies about slavery, I find that even though the story is about an individual, the the way it's interpreted is interpreted as a whole. People don't look at it as an individual pain. Can't compare the Holocaust to slavery. Oh, I said Holocaust. Yes, you can't compare the Holocaust to slavery. The Holocaust was just people trying to eradicate the Jews. We were brought over here to work. We were property. It's two completely different, hateful situations. So when you're watching Emancipation, they give you little moments of that, which is very subtle and very few and far between, but good nonetheless. He fights an alligator and wins. He fights an alligator and wins. He runs, and then he thinks he's free, and then he ends up getting drafted. It's like It's like the story of blackness, man. Like it's like so it had those moments where it was really genuine. Is it a great movie? It's all right. Do I think it would have been received better had he had not slapped Chris Rock at the beginning of the year and not had to come out because the movie was made. It's not like he made the movie after he slapped Chris Rock. The movie was made. So in that capacity, like he's already committed to this thing. And you started your year off by disrespecting a black man to play a black man that should be respected. It's this really awful position that he put himself into. I think that the movie's not bad. I think that people could reflect on it and the artistry of it a bit more had he had not put himself in that position. So I feel bad that Will Smith put himself in that position. The movie would be much better if people viewed him in a better light, which is what I'm trying to get here is a better light because the sun's going down. But no, it's not a bad movie. It's not a great movie. It would be a better movie, and his star power would have driven the movie a bit more. It would have caused more interest. It would have, black people. We got this thing calling giving it the fat lip, like that nigga full of shit. There's a lot of fat lips to the movie because it's just a really hard thing to pull off. Is try to pull off being a noble black man after doing the most disrespectful thing when to a black man while a black man is getting an award as a respectful black man. Like it's like he might be the worst black guy of 2022. I didn't say it. You didn't hear it here, but if it goes viral, which it never will, I think I want to thank you to my 11 subscribers. But Emancipation, 3 out of 5, 2.5 out of 5. It wasn't a bad movie. It just one, people don't really associate Will Smith with struggle. So I think that's a hard thing to pull off. But after the moment where he starts to, once he slaps Chris Rock, he doesn't understand the level of it. I mean, it's hard. Like he's obligated contractually to promote these movies. And when he's out here promoting these movies, the problem with that is that he can't promote the movie because everybody's waiting for him to get done talking about the movie so they can address the fucking slap in the room. So, it's not that bad. It's not that great. Check it out if you got Apple TV. I'll send you my friend's account. If you want to know if that'll get me more followers, I'll send you his password. Y'all have a happy new year. Go check out Emancipation. Tell me what you think. Comment. Always a pleasure, y'all. Goddamn button didn't work. See, I gotta cut that out. Ain't that a